Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Dice Tower Daily Chat. Happy Monday. It's lovely to virtually see all of you people here. I see already a large number of people that are commenting and maybe got questions already. I'm happy to be back, and I'm very happy, very happy to have a special guest with me today. I have with me, as you can see on your screen, through the magic of computer technology, of which I think everyone can tell I have a firm grasp of. I have with me today Mr. Kellen Laker. Kellen, who, if you may not know, is one of the hosts of the Board Game Barrage Podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. So welcome, Kellen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. It's super appreciated to kind of connect. You know, it's the Dice Tower is such a fantastic thing. I've been listening to it since I was, I don't know, more than almost 10 years, I think. I'm remembering being on the subway in New York City more than 5 years ago and listening to Tom, and that being sort of something that got me through a winter where I was kind of lonely. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. Well, we're happy to have you here. I'm happy to have you here. I'm the designated Dice Tower spokesperson, for better or for worse, and so I am welcoming you to the loving arms of the Dice Tower. So
I feel embraced. So that's good.
feel the warmth.
Yeah.
So the daily chat for, I don't know if this is anyone's first time tuning in. If it is, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. But this is just a chance for us to really talk and connect. Everybody right now is obviously kind of maybe a bit more isolated than they would be normally. So this is just a really good way to interact with the community at large and maybe focus on this love of the hobby that we all have. And the Board Game Barrage Podcast is actually a nice proponent for the hobby as well. And so I'm interested to hear what you have to say for these fantastic questions that I'm sure we have, Kellen. So let me start flipping through here and see. Guessing it's Z tonight. No, Z is not tonight. They did say he did change the cover page. That is true. Z changed the cover page, and he did a fine job, if I might add. He did a really nice job, kind of talking about these daily chats. Okay, Kellen, have you played the Fallout board game?
I have not. I've seen people playing it in the background.
Okay.
At a game night.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put it up here because I brought it up. Bull God Jake. Does anyone know if the Fallout board game is really as bad as most critics say? Now, you haven't played.
Right. Have you played it?
I have played it, but I've only played it solo. Although, from what I've heard, that might be the preferred way to play it. Was it as bad? No, maybe not as bad as I've heard. I felt like it had some real rough edges, and from what I hear, and this is never what you want to hear, but from what I hear, the expansion fixed some of those issues. I also have heard that they've basically made a thing where they've retrofitted and you can make the whole game cooperative, which is really probably what it was supposed to be. However, I can tell you that the Fallout Shelter board game is so much better than it has any business being. This little worker placement game based off of that app, the Fallout Shelter game. Have you played that?
That's good.
That app?
I have not,
Okay.
But I've heard it's good. But is the first Fallout game good or not bad? Can we get a clarification before we move on?
That's a fair clarification. I would call it not bad. Okay. I would not. I don't feel comfortable calling it good based off the experiences that I had with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for making me actually answer.
I was going to pin you down a little bit, Mike.
Do it.
Come on.
Left to my own devices, I will waffle. Chicken and waffles. You have any comments? Any opinions on chicken and waffles?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
But it's like places focus right on either one or the other. It's either the chicken that's really good and they're serving you a Bisquick waffle, you know?
Right.
Or the waffle's good and the chicken is like either dry. And so there's not many places that have both components of the chicken and waffle, you think?
That's a very good point. You know, the other thing I've noticed lately is that I think that this is a cheat, if I'm honest. There are people that are using chicken tenders and trying to call that chicken and waffles. I don't know that is truly chicken and waffles.
That's fair, but if it's a drumstick on the chicken and waffles, how are you supposed to eat it anyway? Because you get the knife and you're sort of that doesn't work either.
These are the types of questions that keep me up at night, Kellen.
Yeah, this sounds like an episode of your podcast.
It does. We're going way too sporadically bored here. Okay, let's see here. Looking for questions. We have a lot of people saying hello and hello. I'm not going to say that somebody mentioned something about one or both of us needing a haircut. Look, we're all in the same boat. Look, we.
Okay. But I'm getting on professional conference calls every day, and I'm just going, "Where's the barber? I don't know what to do with this. It's not good. Stay inside. Stay safe."
That's right. Stay safe. Okay. I made the mistake of choosing a name that is very difficult, and I will likely not do well with it. Toy Bow Bow? Toy Bow Bow. Greetings from the Netherlands. Hey, greetings. Lovely to. I'd love to go to have you been to the Netherlands before?
Nope.
Me neither. I would love to. Question. Is the Scythe app any good? Just got it a few hours ago. Have you played the Scythe app at all?
So is it PC or is it an app as well?
It is Steam. From what Steam. I think it's supposed to be coming out on iOS and Android too, but I don't believe it has yet.
Yeah. I have not played it, but I've looked at the UI and the screenshots, and they do serious work. It's not just the board, put into 3D space. They think about these things, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. The biggest issue that I have with the Scythe app is this. I had a 3-person group that was preparing for the Rise of Fenris campaign. And so we thought, okay, the 3 of us, we're going to play the base game a few times. Then we're going to play with 1 or 2 of the expansions a couple times before we get into this, because we wanted to kind of all feel like we knew each other's play styles, make sure we were all comfortable with the rules before we got into a multi-game campaign. So first 2 games we're playing, and our skill levels are pretty okay. I may or may not have won the first couple of games. Then there's a 2-week break before we come back to play. And one of the 3 people that was at the table that was maybe not doing quite as good just absolutely smoked me, humiliated me, crushed me, and laughed over my huddled, shaking, quivering body laying on the floor. And it's because he got the Scythe app and played it hundreds of times.
Right. It only takes like 20. I've heard you can play a game in 20 minutes. If you're doing the app version. And, buried underneath that aesthetic, it really is an efficiency. There's an efficiency. How many turns does it take with this combination of board and with this player faction? And so you got Guitar Hero, bro. He went home, he practiced without you, and he came back, and now it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I got. It is very good. It's absolutely worth. I think it's been on sale, but I think even at full price, I would say it's worth it. The other thing that's cool is the Scythe Kick app, which is basically a way to help you with the physical board game. It allows you to kind of do some AI, and so that's a good one too.
That's cool. Scythe. What I will say about Scythe is I've had a few non-gamers reach out about it, sort of say, I used to play Risk as a kid, and someone bought me this game Scythe, and they're really jazzed about it. And so I think from an entry point perspective, I think it's doing a lot of good work for the hobby, which is really cool.
I agree. And obviously I've got a well-documented fondness for the game, so I'm not going to toot its horn any much more than.
But you're bad at it, right? So
there's my horn. I am legitimately bad at it, but it is one of those games that there are some people that will play just only Scythe. They're not like big board gamers, but they've somehow been acquainted with that game, and that's their game, and they play that almost exclusively. So that's not me, but there are some people. Okay, here is a question from Luke Anzalotti. Any tips on explaining how to play board games for less experienced gamers or non-board gamers?
This is a cool question. I didn't know. Am I first? You don't want to speak first?
There's no look. There's no
There's
rules
no
here, Kellen.
Sure.
We can Rochambeau, we can whatever you want to do.
Don't tell me there's no rules, because I'm sure I can brush up against some of the Dice Tower rules here for you.
This isn't a game; it's an activity. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the first thing is really simplifying, and not everyone is overeager. You always want to go straight to Scythe, and you think, oh yeah, well it'll be fine, But you got to start somewhere for them and establish a language, because the language that we share as gamers is so different and so specific. Even the concept of what is a victory point, right? Like that is unheard of for many people, or I would actually guess most people.
Yes.
I kind of want to text my dad right now and ask him if he knows what a victory point is, because my guess is he does not. And so for me, it's about simplifying. It's about clarifying the win condition, and you do have to make that analysis, right? Is someone more apt to want to just start playing, or do they want to know all the rules up front? And so you're making a judgment call, and then you're either doing one or the other, and you're getting to playing as simply as possible. But you also do need to make sure your appetite is in line with their appetite, and that means you might be playing just one for a couple of weeks to kind of onboard them slowly. And that is where the term gateway games comes from. And I know some people don't like that terminology, but I do think it's helpful to get people into the hobby.
Yeah. You've, you very much are in line with my thought, because I've come across this question a time or two. But the one thing that you hit on that I probably haven't expressed enough is this idea of speaking without the argot, without without our lexicon of victory points. And, who has ever heard the word orthogonal unless they're a board gamer? We tend to take for granted, I'll speak for myself. I tend to take for granted sometimes terminology and vocabulary that I use with people in the gaming circles that is not familiar. And I have to remind myself, okay, when I was introduced Catan for the first time, I had never heard of a victory point. The idea of so many of the ideas in that game, which I now take for granted, were completely foreign to me. And I was overwhelmed with what to me now seems like a very simple game. At the time was overwhelming. And I think part of it was because of the second thing you brought up, which is that when, they were not trying to make it difficult, but they taught every single rule of that game before we got started. And so I had information overload. I was completely overwhelmed. I had no idea where to start. And I've even had this discussion with my wife, because she is the type of gamer that doesn't want to know every rule. She wants to know just enough to get started. She learns by doing. And not everyone is like that, but there are enough people like that you should try to get a sense for, how competitive are they? Will they get upset if they don't know every rule? You know what I mean? At the beginning of the game, and then they feel like they've been ambushed with a rule, and you're just trying to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think when you go down that route, you take the first 25% of the game, and when it becomes their turn, you sort of present to them, maybe the 4 options that they have, and say, you could go this way or you could go that way, because then they're paralyzed about sort of getting got, and your goal should not be to win the game. Your goal should be to make the game interesting for as many people as possible.
Very nicely said. We have a question from Nylan Naker. Who are these people?
Who knows?
Your worst nightmare, Nylan. Your worst nightmare. That's who these people are. Nylan is another one of the hosts of the Board Game Barrage podcast.
Oh, we're not going to ask? We don't want his question.
That was his question. Who are these people?
Oh, who are these people?
Yeah, he was being cute.
He's referring to me, because everyone knows who you are, Mike Delicious.
That's not true. Okay. Rainier, one of my favorite people from Board and Dice games. He's asking this to me, but Kellen, I'm sure this question would be applicable to you as well. Other than solo gaming, what does your regular game group look like? Well, it's changed, honestly. When I was living in Indiana, I had a couple of really good, solid game groups that I played with. One, there was a group called Keep Gaming Indie that kind of started where it was a number of people that kind of did content creation, but then it grew into just this great community thing. And it's still a thriving game group in Indiana. And so that was a big part of my game group. There were other friends that I had, some through the game store that I would work at periodically. But now in Florida, it's changed quite a bit. I still have not established a regular game group outside of the Dice Tower folks, which, that's fantastic. But quite honestly, we don't get to play games all that much. And now, obviously, that's changed. But before kind of things had changed, we were still working so much that it was pretty rare that we would get a chance to play. So right now, the answer is I need to get one established. We have had regular game nights at Cool Stuff that I'm sure are going to come back again once things get back to normal. But I'm in flux. I'm in flux right now. Kellen, what's your game group looking like?
Well, I wanted to interrupt you because I don't know how you can lie to the people so straight to their face.
Wow.
We all know you're having sleepovers at Tom's house with Z, and the whole crew's there hanging out every night. Like, that's the dream.
All right. Well, you've lifted the veil. And we have.
You bring your own toothbrush is really my question.
Oh, I have to. Look, I mean, I work with these people. They're friends of mine. But no, I'm not sharing my toothbrush with anybody.
Yeah, game groups are tough. Because there's sort of a size that's perfect, and that depends on what type of games you like. If you like 4-player Euro games or conflict games, the perfect group size is 4. And if you like party games, the perfect size is, maybe 8 to 10.
Right.
And then if you get to too many, it's like, okay, I really want to play Mezzo tonight. Like, that's what I want to play. And then 5 people show up, or 6 people show up, and you're like, well, we're not playing Mezzo tonight. I don't have enough room for that. My current game group is largely the Board Game Barrage podcast. So that's me, Mark, Neelan, and Christina, my girlfriend. But we do have larger game groups. We all met at a game night that meets every week on Saturdays in the marina. And so when I want to get out there and see what other people are playing and kind of do more of the party-ish style games, I usually end up at that game night.
Do you think that your gaming tastes have changed since you've been focused more on that core group of the 4 of you, since you play games now, I assume, and I'm going to make assumptions here because that's what I do. You play games now with levels, layers. I'm sure that there's still an element of playing these games where you're playing them strictly for the enjoyment of playing them. You have another layer of these are people that you know well, and you have a meta that has evolved over time. And then you have another layer of you maybe critically approaching these games from a critical eye, to talk about them on your podcast. So do you feel like that has changed at all? Kellen, has it changed your gaming tastes at all?
I think so. I think it broadens what you like. I think that enjoyment is infectious. I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but
there may be an extra syllable in there, but hey,
it's
who
live.
cares?
In a podcast, I can just say it like 4 ways and then just put in the right one.
Correct.
But when someone is enthusiastic about something and says, no, this is what I want to do with you guys. I remember when we met at Gen Con and you were excited to play in front of the elevators, and even just your enthusiasm for that obscure Japanese game translated into a better experience for me. And so I do find that my gaming tastes have changed in accordance with the people around me because I like getting into that perfect zone, and Christina, who I live with, my girlfriend, member of the podcast, is big into the Dudes on a Map, the Blood Rage, the Cthulhu Wars. And so my appreciation for those has deepened. And I'm willing to go deeper into that hole of before maybe I only needed 2 of them.
Sure.
And now I every time a new one comes out, I'm sort of exploring, well, I can probably pick that up.
Yeah.
But from a critical perspective, my favorite part about board gaming is discovery.
Yeah,
it's
me too.
Looking online, looking on BGG at these like little obscure things from different countries, from indie publishers, and kind of, it's like when you watch a movie for the second time,
Yeah.
I'm not, and you're showing it to a friend,
Right.
I'm not watching the movie. I'm just like literally looking at them out of the
Right.
corner of my
Right.
eye and desperately hoping, I'm trying to show The West Wing to Christina right now,
Oh,
a
wow.
fantastic series.
Aaron Sorkin,
I think it's the perfect time for it because we're coming into, an election
Sure.
in the USA, and it's positive, which
Yeah.
is a great thing right now.
Yeah.
And I'm really not watching the show. I'm just like glancing at all the good parts, and I know they're coming up, and just hoping that Christina's liking it. And so I think that affects how you board game. I picked up a game called Electropolis, which is from Taiwan. And it was too expensive, but I'm like, I think Nealon will like this. So I bought it for him for his birthday.
Oh, nice.
And so, but giving that to him and playing that became a shared experience that's more than just, it's my latest Cool Stuff Inc. order, the game I wanted, I put it on the shelf.
Right.
I was a little long-winded, but what about you?
As far as what you're saying there,
you're a critic. You're a professional.
Yeah, well, okay. I didn't know if you were asking, because I answered Rainier's question, but then I piggyback. See, that's kind of what I do, Kellen.
You're the host.
I'm a multi-branching organism. Has my gaming taste? Well, I don't know if my gaming tastes have changed as much. I would say that my experience while playing games has changed. I did not necessarily feel the weight, and maybe I shouldn't be feeling it as a weight, but I'm just being honest. That's kind of how I feel it. I didn't feel the weight of critical analysis when I played games previously. Now I feel like I can still enjoy it on a surface level of, is this a game I like or not like or don't like? But I also, if I feel like if I'm going to make a recommendation, I have to put more consideration into it, because you're talking about people's money, their time. And so I really am being a little bit more careful about how effusive, because I would get excited. I would get excited when I'd play a game for the first time, and I'd have a great first impression, and I would go out and just shout it off the rooftops how much I enjoyed this game. And then maybe the second time I played it, it wasn't quite as great. And then maybe the third time I played it, I realized I was kind of done with it. Gugong would be one example of that. The first time I played Gugong, I thought, man, this is a really good game. And then the second time I played it, I'm like, this is exactly like the first time I played Gugong. And then the third time I played it, I was like, am I in a time warp? Nothing has changed, and so now I'm trying to be a little bit more careful. Nothing wrong. Gugong is a fine game, but I don't think it has a lot of replayability is what I'm getting at. So anyway.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. For the games that are true delights on that first and second play, I sometimes hold and don't cover them on the podcast or on Instagram or online. And I really want to make sure it's special so that when I get out there and start proclaiming it from the rooftops, we don't all have as big of a voice in the hobby as you do, Mike Delicious, but no, it's like those special ones that you really want to be the guy that's championing it, let's say. And that comes with like, I'm going to pause right now. I want to make sure that this is actually right.
Sure. Like perhaps putting Cthulhu Wars on your essential games list and hearing I got a lot of opinions about that. Okay. Michael West asks, where do you think Plaid Hat will go next? Love some of their older games, but they lost those in the departure. I know that there are certain titles, and it's a lot of times it's a lot of their bigger titles, Dead of Winter and things along those lines that are not going to be part of the catalog. Here's just my gut reaction to it. I don't have any, information outside of what anybody else has. I think they're going to go to what they were at the beginning, which was a boutique publisher that spent a lot of time on a game release a year. And I think they're going to be fine, quite honestly, because from what I understand anyway, the creative team that really started Plaid Hat is still there, or at least still involved to some extent. And so why is there any reason to believe, I don't want to throw stones because a lot of times things happen behind the scenes that we're not privy to. But it does seem like it was when they went away from kind of that core team that things kind of maybe went off the rails a little bit. And so Yeah, my gut is telling me that they're gonna go back to what they did best at the beginning. So,
well, and that's Summoner Wars, right? 2.0.
so
It
well,
feels
he is gonna come out with Summoner Wars again. But I don't. But I do remember though. I mean, Plaid Hat was the it publisher. I mean, when Dead of Winter was hot, even when Ashes came out, I remember Gen Con when Ashes was released. That was huge. They now I know that those storybook games, those aren't coming back over, but those were,
right.
The one thing that I thought about Plaid Hat was that they had a feel, right? They had an aesthetic, and I felt like they kind of lost a little bit of that. And I'm wondering if they get it back. You knew a Plaid Hat game.
Yeah, I think from my corners of the internet, I'm just hearing the rumblings of, oh my gosh, Summoner Wars is coming back. And so I feel like they're going to ride that pretty hot for the first little while. But yeah. I don't have, the knowledge that you're getting at all these sleepovers that you're doing. So.
Well, look, one of these days you might get in the club.
Okay.
All right. Here's a question. Now you get yourself ready for this, Kellen. You're on the spot.
Sure.
I don't have a timer handy, but I may get one. Gator Dave asks, what is the Board Game Barrage 30-second elevator speech or your elevator pitch? Here we go.
Sure. Board Game Barrage is a podcast where Mark, Neelan, myself, and Christina argue about board games. We're very much coming from a place of different tastes. I'm a little bit more Eurotrash, or Ameritrashy rather, and Mark and Neelan are a little bit more Euro leaning. Mm-hmm. We spend a lot of time diving into some of the philosophical discussions around board gaming. Mm-hmm. It's not just here's the 15 games we played this week. Correct. It's more like, how does that make people feel, or what does it feel like to be in a king-making situation, and how do we deal with that as a group of friends? Right. It's also 1 hour long every week. We're very clear about editing it. I think it's not a time waste. It's not a 3-hour podcast, and those are great for people who have 3 hours. Right. But we all have very busy, and so we try to keep it very concise and tight and interesting. And we're building a community of people who like more interactive games. I would say it's probably a throughput. Mike, how did I do? It's not 30 seconds.
Probably. No, but it was pretty close. I think you did. Yeah. I think you did splendidly. Yes, I think that you, the four of you, three almost always, four sometimes. No matter who's in the mix, you have a good repartee. I think you all have unique voices, which is something that is not always found. Not only can I tell you apart, like actually orally through my headphones, but you have a voice as far as a perspective. And so I think that's to be appreciated. Okay. Ephraim Owen Maza asks, what is your usual routine or steps when learning games, especially the heavy ones? Are you a rulebook learner, Kellen?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I don't like it, but I mean, you have to do it. That's an ongoing argument that I have with Neelan, that there's some satisfaction inherent in reading the rule book. And I am of the opinion that that's predicated on the playing of the game after you've read the rule book, but he is very adamant that there is pleasure to be found in reading the rule book. Okay. I think he's a liar. But no, I think for me, it's about, I like punching the components and looking at the cards so I can see what the components are before I just look at a PDF of the rule book.
Right.
Because once you start reading, and I always skip the setup section and I go straight to the turn structure, and then I go back to the setup, because it's like, put this piece here, this piece there. Some of those are 2 pages long and take 15 minutes just to read through and look at number 9 and where the coins go. And, if it's a very, very heavy game that I'm confused about, I will either set it up and start play a first turn, or I am frequently turning to videos, though I don't like that, because then when I get in the game and someone asks me a question, I don't know how to go reference the thing that I was looking for. But the more games you play, the better you get at reading rule books.
Right.
And it was kind of a point I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about how to teach new people. Whenever you skip a section in a rule book and go, okay, I've seen that before. That's how they do it. That's how they do it in Dominion. you skip about half of it because you just know it.
Right.
And that's everything that a new player doesn't skip.
Correct.
Because they don't know how to reshuffle their deck after they discard and the standard Dominion draw or so there's all those things that become shorthand for you is exactly what other people have no clue what you're talking about.
Correct. Yeah. I don't have a lot to differentiate myself. I read the rule book, generally speaking. There are some go-to video people that I will watch if I feel like. I almost never use a video as my sole point of reference. And I think it's partly for what you said, Kellen. It's just that I feel like I need to have something that I can refer to in the middle of a game if I need to. But there are times where I'll read the rule book, watch a video, read the rule book again. And if I'm still a little bit shaky at that point, exactly what you said. I set the game up and I try to go through a round or two, which depending on the game can be, more or less viable of an option. Totally. Good question. This will be a short question, I think, because this is an either or. Dan Cheston wants to know, Mike and Kellen, do you prefer sleeved or unsleeved cards?
So let's not make it an either or. Let's belabor this.
Okay.
This is 5 minutes of content. The Church of Sleeving is a very important distinction.
Okay.
I sleeve games now that are shuffled a ton or have hidden traitor, hidden implications. Right. So the cards in Trois with the hidden objectives on them, I sleeved. Okay. And I actually have not sleeved the rest of the game.
Right.
Which will probably, that's a little OCD-like in some sense, but I used to sleeve everything. I used to sleeve everything in Fantasy Flight sleeves. Okay. And I would cut out the box, the top of the color, and then tape it on the inside of the box to remind myself. It's because I bought sleeves for Dixit. So the first 3 expansions of Dixit, I have them all sleeved. I have sleeves for all 100 and whatever Cosmic Encounter aliens. But Fantasy Flight doesn't make those sleeves, so I want to make sure in case I need to buy more. But I think that idea goes away a little bit as you go.
Right.
But it still is much easier to shuffle, in my mind, sleeved cards because you just jam them together. And that protects the cards. So either or, who could say?
Well, I don't. Look, this is. I'd love to come strong at you with this, but I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I really don't. I think some games are more conducive to sleeving than others. I think, like you said, if there are cards that, especially if the quality is not great and you have to shuffle them a lot, then yeah, it behooves you to sleeve them. There are other games where they have some importance to me where I just want it to be pristine. Like my PAX Premier 2nd edition, I sleeved that. My Scythe is all sleeved. But there are other games where if the cards are not going to be handled all that much, I don't feel that I have to sleeve it. I will tell you though, that makes me sound like I'm less concerned about the how my games are handled, because I am not good when it comes to food. I get really, really anxious when people are eating around games. It's my issue. I get it. It's my issue, but it freaks me out because it's just like, we're not sitting around with wet naps at the table or with little, dipping bowls for our fingers. You're eating chips. There's nothing you can eat. I contend there's nothing you can eat that is going to be so pristine that you're not transferring something to those components. Pudding. I don't care what it is.
Pudding.
Well, it depends on how you're eating the pudding, I'm supposing.
Gotcha.
Now, are you eating the pudding through a straw? And if so, then maybe this isn't the best type of pudding, because real pudding probably would have too much viscosity.
I finally sleeved Glory to Rome Black Box Edition. I had not sleeved it for a number of years, and then I went, I'm an idiot. Like, this is the most valuable game I think I own. Yeah. It should probably be in sleeves. But games can be played 30 times without even showing where, provided you're not playing with all your friends who are staying up late eating Cheetos. Right. You and Mr. Vassal. But
Cheetos? No, we go with full racks of ribs. Come on now.
Oh, no one is playing ribs and playing any of my board games. I'm sorry. That's a hard pass for me.
No, even boneless riblets?
Through a straw?
Sure, through a straw.
Yes, done.
All right. Ruel Ruel Gaviola. Kellen, has your opinion of Nova Luna changed since you and he played it at Dice Tower West? He played it again recently, and it was just as good the second time. I really, really, really want to play this. I've heard really good things.
You didn't play it with us at Dice Tower West?
I did not. It was not one of the games we played, no.
Nova Luna is fantastic. And is it Youve?
It's Youve, yeah.
Which is absurd. It doesn't seem anything like what he's done. But Nova Luna has the time mechanism from Patchwork, which is a fantastic two-player game from Youve, where the tile you want costs you 2 time, and everyone takes turns in order of your time. So you could take 3 turns in a row, provided you're enough time behind the other players. Right. And so it's this agonizing choice of should I take the tile now for a little time, or should I really spend my time to get the one tile I desperately need? I still love Nova Luna. I had fun playing with Ruel. Hello, great to see you. Thank you for joining. I don't own it. Neelan bought it, but I think for the perfect 20-minute, 30-minute start a game night game, there's a lot more complexity there than you would get from your traditional filler type game. So I think a huge recommendation for Nova Luna. Great game. That's
fantastic, because I know a lot of people have been. I've been getting this sense, and Kellen, you don't have to agree with me, although it probably is better if you do.
Okay.
I get the sense that.
Is that a threat?
No. You and I, and this is something that you and I think have a healthy respect for. How do you phrase it? The one true doctor.
Yeah, the only true and living doctor.
The only true and living doctor, Reiner Knizia.
Yes.
There's been a complaint over the last few years that Reiner Knizia doesn't do much other than iterate on or re-release old designs with new themes. However, whatever the case may be, I vehemently disagree with that. But that's been a rap against him. It's been the hip thing among all the kids on TikTok to say. I feel like there's been an Youve backlash lately, that people are saying all he's doing are these polyomino games, that they're all just iterations of things he's done before. But it seems like this one stands apart a bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know it has some mechanisms from another game. I believe that he didn't even design, right? Habitats, I think is the name of it. It's a combination of a game called Habitats and the time mechanism from Patchwork. Right. It does feel very different from those things. I think the polyomino thing sort of came and went in the same realm of roll and writes. There's just so many of them. Yeah. And I think that series of Cottage Garden, Indian Summer, Arctic Winter, who the hell knows? Like
Arctic Winter. That should have been the next, yeah.
They were also similar looking and sounding. Right. You know, we could sit here and, riff raff and make up 7 new additions for that game.
Sure.
And so I think that led to some of that fatigue. If they would have done a little better job, I think, differentiating them. This isn't like Azul. People aren't in love with that theming of it.
Right.
It's like, what is the theme of Indian Summer? I'm not really sure.
There's leaves.
Sure.
There's leaves, I believe.
But I think but aren't they like fall? They're like orange leaves, and it's the summer.
They're orange leaves, orange and red, ochre. Maybe there's some ochre in there. Maybe burnt sienna. There might be some burnt sienna in there.
You have a color index on your screen?
I'm thinking back to my 64 color box days. There were some wonderful colors in there. You had periwinkle. You can't go wrong with a good periwinkle.
Chartreuse?
Was chartreuse in the mix? I don't know. Mauve? Puce?
I don't.
You're
saying words. I don't know what they mean, but
I contend they're all colors. All right, I'm getting I'm getting my phone ready because I may need to refer. I'm hoping I can find it. Jordan Schoenberger asks, and this is for me, but Kellen, I don't know. Do you play solo games at all?
I don't.
Okay.
I have once or twice.
Okay. I'm being asked what are some of my favorite solo games, and I'm looking to see if I can quickly find my solo games list.
He loves Coffee Roaster.
I love Coffee Roaster. That's definitely on the list.
That was a game from Sashi and Sashi that has been re-released by Stronghold, I believe, with new artwork.
Yep.
It's one that I've looked at that seems really cool. And I think right now is such a great time to check out digital solo board gaming. It's there. It's all out there for you, even if you can't get stuff shipped into you.
It is. It is. Yes. Coffee Roaster is up there. City of Kings. I love Raiders of the North Sea, which doesn't come with a solo deck in the main box, but he's kind of coming out with a new version of it called Raiders of Scythia, which is basically a different
Scythia?
Raiders
looking
of
at
whatever
looking
the
at
case
that
may
box.
be.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce it, but looking at the box, I'm like, how does someone not think this is a Scythe? It looks like a Scythe product.
Yeah,
it says Scythe on the box.
There's a little bit of that, but I do believe that that's an actual historical location, or at least a historical group of people. I'm not positive, but that has the solo variant built in. I feel bad. I can't find my list. I'm sorry, but I do have a top solo list somewhere out there. So
it's just like
what's
48-piece puzzle is your favorite solo game.
Yeah,
because you get above 48, and then you kind of get a little confused.
I get lost in the Burt Sienna and the Periwinkle and.
Right, exactly.
Let's see. I'm looking for. We've got some lovely discussion on here. I'm just trying to find. Apparently, orthogonal is not strictly in the realm of board gaming. Apparently, statisticians also use orthogonal. Anybody who knows anything about me knows that I am not a statistician. I would never be confused as a statistician. I would be exposed as a fraud within seconds. Seconds, I say. Let's see. Sorry, I was way behind, so I'm just trying to make sure I can.
It's okay.
Here's a good. This I know you're going to like this because you and I have a history with this game, Kellen. Proximity Illusions with Carrie Rostelin says or asks, hello, how come the Dice Tower has not reviewed Fast Sloths? I got it recently, and it is wonderful. Now, Kellen has been making much of my insider status at the Dice Tower, my high and mighty. I think he thinks I'm putting on airs is what I'm getting at here.
You work for the Dice Tower. What are you talking about?
I guess I do. I can tell you, Carrie, that review is coming very, very soon. I will not tip my hand as to which direction Tom went, but I will tell you what I feel about it, and Kellen will tell you what he feels about it, because I was actually taught the game by Mr. Kellen Laker at Dice Tower West. You and the rest of the Barrage folk taught me this game. I'm very hit and miss with Friedman Freeze games. There are some games, his games are almost always ones that I appreciate more than I like. I appreciate the cleverness of the design. I appreciate the stringent mathematics. Speaking of statisticians, I feel like Friedman Freeze is every statistician's favorite designer. But they don't always work for me. This game was a delight. It was a delightful family weight game. The thing I appreciated the most about it was how versatile, and I played it once. So this is me doing exactly what I said I don't want to do, which is play something once and go shout from the rooftops. Well, get ready because here's my bullhorn. I thought it was really, really, really charming, and I use that word too much. I don't care. It's versatile in the sense that this would be a game that is just a step above what I would introduce new people with. You could, but I think it might feel overwhelming to people that were new to the hobby. But not so much that you probably couldn't get away with it. I think it's a great next step game after you've introduced them maybe with some smaller card games, maybe gotten them a little bit more comfortable with the way things work. But it also, if you play this with a group of ultra competitive heavy gamers, they will be at each other's throats within the first 5 minutes of this game. They'll see all the ways they can screw each other over. So I think it's a really, really good design, but maybe you've played it more than I have. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I've played it a few times. We played it with you. We actually did it on game nights.
That's right, yeah. On BGG.
On Board Game Geek's Game Night series. We filmed that with Lincoln and his group. Fast Loss is adorable. And I think that if removed from the theme, it would be very hard to get into.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
But because the card play, you have a mix of animals in the game. And, for example, one of them is an elephant, and the elephant can carry, so it's a game where you are the sloth, but you can't move.
Right.
And so the sloth has to get moved around by all the animals on the board to get all the leaves that the sloth wants. So it's pick up and deliver, but you're being picked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the elephant card picks you up and walks with you and then can throw you up to 3 spaces. So the trunk of the elephant sort of, cascades you out onto the board. And those different cards would actually be too complicated if it weren't for the fact that they're thematically linked to what they are.
Yeah.
The dolphin is in the water and it goes this far in the water. And so it really makes you get through some of that rules layer to it.
Right.
And so there's a great complex game under there
Yep.
with that tension that you talked about if you want to fight. And I mean, it hurts so bad because you both want the elephant and you're in the same area, and all of a sudden Mike DeLisio is taking the elephant and moving him across the bridge, and suddenly I've got no elephant.
Right.
And it led to it's a lot of hijinks, a lot of funny hijinks, beautiful board presence too, and fun, interesting things to decide on your turn. But you don't get bogged down in it because you're on one part of the board and you've only got sort of 3 animals around you, and you've got to go. You can't really concern yourself with what's happening on the opposite end of the board. So it is a really good one.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the things that makes the game a bit more approachable. You're right. There's a great thematic connection between those animals and the actual mechanics. And I don't always feel like Freedom and Freeze has the most, you wouldn't necessarily call him the most thematic game. Maybe that's not fair. I don't know. I've never necessarily thought of him as a particularly thematic designer, but I might be not giving him enough credit.
This is where if we knew different colors of green, we would just sort of say them right now. So
Correct.
If you have that list handy. Is chartreuse?
Chartreuse might be in the green family. I mean, you've got your forest green, you've got your hunter green.
Okay.
You've got your pea green.
Was this a parlor trick? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying. I think your hoodie is a forest green, and I'm actually kind of surprised you're not wearing red. If I'm being honest, you are the red tank.
I've
okay.
Red lights, and I've got Bulbasaur on this hoodie. Look at that. Do you know who Bulbasaur is?
I do. Yes, it's one of the Pokemons. Am I correct?
Pokemon.
I know.
But at least you didn't say Pokemon, so that would be
Pokemon.
That would be your true
Bulbasaur.
disrespect.
Bulbasaur evolves into. Isn't it one of the ones with the cannons?
No, that's Squirtle.
Oh,
Squirtle.
Okay.
Yeah, he becomes Blastoise. That's okay. It's
I'm not gonna. There's not going to be a question up here, but you are. I'm just going to bring this up because I think it's interesting, and you actually showed me an amazing version of example of this. You will re-theme games, and almost always, maybe always, into Pokemon. Correct?
It's not always Pokemon, but I just finished a Cursed Court re-theme.
Yeah, I saw that. It was beautiful.
A great game. With custom poker chips, 3D printed Pokeballs, and I actually used a deck of real Pokemon cards as the card deck, which was really cool.
Foil, yeah?
With holographic. Don't foil, come on.
No,
holographic.
I don't know. I look.
First edition.
If it's not on TikTok, I don't know, because I live my life on TikTok.
For sure. I've done Wizard as well, a Pokemon, like a deck for more trick-taking games.
Okay.
But I'm currently actually considering a Splatoon re-theme of El Grande, which I don't know if you're familiar with Splatoon.
I am familiar with Splatoon, yes.
Oh, are you?
I am.
I love the ethos. I'm just a Nintendo kid. I grew up playing Nintendo games, and so it's hard because I don't think those themes are any more helpful to get like non-gamers to play. Right. It's like El Grande is kind of ugly looking, and so it's hard to get people into it. But then it's like, oh, do you want to play the Splatoon version? And suddenly, 1/10 of the audience who would play El Grande is now into it. So.
Is into it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But I admire your chutzpah all the same. Now, you are making me a little bit self-conscious, if I'm being honest with you, Kellen, because I feel now that it should be Pokemon. I've been saying Pokemon.
Pokemon? Well, I mean, in Japan, it's Pocket Monsters, right? On the Japanese cards. Pokemon. This is going to be a dialect thing. I don't want to go there. Right. I'm from California. You've never been, so. I know. I'm kidding. I know.
Born and raised in the SoCal. Shane Barnick asks, how do you deal with people who get angry during games?
What if you are the person who gets angry during
Uh-huh. That's a different question. I've been on both ends of this. I don't get angry often. I think at the table, but a perfect example was when the person that I was playing Scythe with went away for 2 weeks and came back and was a Scythe master. And I will admit, I am not proud of how I reacted. I got really salty. I got really I felt like personally attacked. You didn't do anything wrong. There's no rules that say you can't go and get better at a game. But it really, I apologized. I will tell you that I apologized to both people at the table because I realized that I was being I was being stupid. Honestly, I was being unreasonable. When other people get angry, it depends on how it's expressed. If I feel like they're creating an atmosphere at the table where anybody at the table feels uncomfortable or personally attacked, then I may feel like I have to intervene. Not like I'm the one that would be in charge of that, but I might feel a personal responsibility. But I don't know that I've ever had to do that.
I mean, it's kind of about how you express the anger, right?
Right.
Because I like it when people are invested enough in the game that when they lose, that there's actual disappointment.
Sure.
Right? Because that's the stakes, that's the twist that we're in, that's the framework that we've all agreed to.
Correct.
And I think that in part that's what Mark Nealon and I together do so well, is that we all desperately want to win. And it doesn't matter if it's the first game. And so that does lead to some raised tension. Mm-hmm. It's not diplomacy levels of tension, sure. but I've unfortunately flipped a table before in my life, maybe
Wow.
10 years ago.
Wow.
And that, it's something you look back on and you realize was a mistake. And it is, unfortunately, it's just a game. Mm-hmm. You just have to be able to sit and reflect and do better.
Yeah.
It's not always, but I think that's preferable for me and my group to the people who are like, well, you won the game by 17 points. Great. Let's do something else. That's one of the things that games bring you, is that competitive spirit of, okay, we're in this together, and who's going to emerge victorious.
I think it also depends the makeup of the group at the table. If these are people that you know well, I'm going to respond much differently when somebody gets angry. If I'm in that scenario I brought up before would be a situation where I don't know the people around the table very well. And I'm always gauging, are people having a good time? Are they comfortable? Is everyone, you know what I mean? I don't know why I feel that responsibility, but I tend to feel that responsibility. But if it's a gaming group and someone gets, that's going to happen. It's good. Like you said, you get invested in a game and people are going to get angry. It just depends on how they express that anger. All right, let's get through some more questions because there's so many. We're not going to get to we're not even going to get to half of them, but because there's some wonderful engagement on this group, and I appreciate it. Aaron Nicole asks, do you both still enjoy smaller games that can be played quickly, or do you rather bigger games with longer gameplay? I don't prefer one over the other. I think they both have a place. I think there are very good examples of both. That's my short answer.
I think, and I have this broad philosophy, that a game should be just as short as it needs to be. Which is to say that there is a place for our 4X Twilight Imperium-like experiences, because that gives you something that you could feel over that epic length of time. It's like a book series or a movie series. Having the trilogy makes you more invested than 1 2-hour movie could. Right? Mm-hmm. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, that we could invent a Twilight Imperium Express.
Okay.
2-hour Twilight Imperium that made you feel the exact same things as Twilight Imperium, the 10-hour edition. I would say that Twilight Imperium Express is a better game objectively. Now, that's not true.
Sure.
That's my personal philosophy. But I find that I gravitate towards 1 to 2 hour games that are more complicated, that feel longer than they are, that give you more than that time frame would make you think.
Right.
But I still love, my long bash outs and Cthulhu Wars and all of that type of game as well.
Very nice. Very nice. There's so many good questions here. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, and I apologize, but and there's also great discussion going on, and thankfully even about things we're talking about. Gator Dave wants me to take back my Gugong hate. All right, I rescind. It's the best game of the year, as said by Kellen Laker of Board Game Barrage Podcast.
I haven't played it yet. I want to. It's very beautiful.
It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Yeah. And it's just, I found like it felt like it needed more variability. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Look, it's one person's opinion. The fact that I'm overwhelmingly correct, don't let that sway you.
Mm-hmm. We got to put some of these quotes on a box,
There's a lot of stuff about Gugong in here. So you say one thing. Okay. We've got a hot question, apparently.
Oh, nice.
But I don't know which one. It was Nealon, but I don't know what he was referring to.
No, he's just trolling.
You think?
Well, that's what he does, We got to keep him on topic at all times.
Okay, a lot of discussions about Mike Delicious.
Oh, you like that, Mike Delicious? He loves popcorn.
I have heard that before. Now, I have told the story a couple of times, but I haven't shared it with the Dice Tower chat. When I was in my formative years, I want to say middle school, maybe first year of high school, but in California, we called it junior high. That's how we roll out there. Am I right, Kellen?
That's right.
Junior
Come
high.
On. Represent.
There was an exciting new product that was being offered by Burger King, and it was the Italian chicken sandwich. And this Italian chicken sandwich, the tagline was, "It's delicioso." And so, oh no is right. And I heard that, I don't know, 400 or 500 times a day for the next 2 to 3 years. Okay.
Everyone has a nickname, right?
Oh,
that's a bad.
It is, and it could have been much worse. Mark Basada asks. See, I figured I've got an equal time. Are there games that you've avoided, perhaps because they're outside of your comfort zone, and why? And why are you interested in trying some out? And he puts he parenthetically notes asking a complex question to make up for Nealon. So I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you for picking up the slack on that. Kellen, complex games, or not necessarily complex, just games you've avoided because they're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that playing a game in the 18xx genre will need to happen in a very specific context.
Sure.
We have a copy that someone sent us of 1889, which is I think, kind of baby's first 18xx kind of length experience.
Right.
But it's more the idea of who you play with for me when those games are complicated.
Right.
If someone at a convention said, "Hey, do you want to play your first coin game? Do you want to play Cuba Libre?" Cuba Libre, I would not gravitate towards that situation because I would get crushed, I would be embarrassed, and I would feel like I was kind of hurting the balance of what everyone else was doing.
Right.
But in the context of like your group, your friends, I'd be willing to try anything, and I think that's what's fun. I'm not sure if there are any specifics though. Do you have specific games that you've avoided?
I've avoided TI4.
Okay.
Because of the length. But I will try it. I've never said I won't play that game. I have avoided it because just the idea of sitting to play one game for 6 to 8 hours is something that I have had a hard time just finding a comfort level with. I don't particularly know why. I've had 6 to 8 hour game days. So really, what's the big difference? Because what I've heard is that no, you're not going to want to play this game all the time. You may only play it once every year or two, but it provides an experience that you can't get anywhere else. And so I need to find out if that's true for me. I don't know whether it is or not, but I can't know until I try. But I have avoided that. I have avoided. No, I can't say that. I played an 18xx game, and I can't remember which one it was. And I played. Someone earlier in the chat asked about Winsome games, whether we like those. I played a Winsome game too. I played. I can't remember. It was 2 city names, I think. And it was. I quite liked it, even though it was very obtuse.
Right.
But I didn't feel like I was particularly good at it, although I won somehow. Just by going with my gut, which I don't think is the way you're supposed to play those games. I think you're supposed to math them out. But I refuse to min-max. It's just not the way I choose to play games. But that's just, I don't know. So TI4.
You don't like winning?
It's, I don't like winning at the expense of causing people to enjoy themselves less at the table, because the amount of time it would take me, I feel like would be selfish. That's just my opinion. I'm very conscious of AP. For better or for worse, because I can sometimes be not as patient as I should be. Not outwardly, but inwardly, there are times where I'm just like, would you just go? You know what I mean? You're going to make this is going to be a difference of 2 points at the end of the game. It's probably not going to be the difference between winning or losing, but if it is, was it worth 20 minutes? You know what I mean? So anyway, this is me getting angry at the table.
Yeah. So you're going to flip it?
I'm not going to flip the table because I've got, electronics on top, but
sure.
So TI4 would be my choice.
Have you played Eclipse? I still haven't, and I've avoided that.
I've played Eclipse on the app.
Okay.
And it was fine. I don't know. There are very few of the 4X style games that I tend to gravitate towards. And the ones that I do, you have nothing but vitriol and spite and hate towards.
We don't, that is a funny thing. We don't agree on very much at all really in terms of game taste. I can't think of two people that are further apart.
That's close to true, I would say. Yes.
Yeah.
Close to true. Yes, because I contend that. This is a perfect segue. Epic Gaming Night asks, Mike, why is Heroes of Land? I swear to you, I didn't have this set up. Why is Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea the best 4X game? And people that disagree are wrong. Roy, this is a great question. I went on the Board Game Barrage podcast. I was lured in with sweets, and they told me that they were going to provide a sheltering, welcoming environment, and then they I'm just kidding. I came on there to talk about this whole notion of popcorn games, because I've talked about, and I know we're over the time, but we'll wrap up here soon. You're doing okay, Kellen?
Yeah.
Okay. I just kind of flippantly threw out this idea of popcorn games being like a popcorn movie, where it's something that you play it and you enjoy it, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It has, and I know people, it has self-awareness. I caught a lot of grief about people saying, how can a game be self-aware? Well, I think a designer of a game can be aware of the type of game that they're making. And if they're not trying to make a super, a game that doesn't take itself terribly seriously, I feel like Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea is an example of that. It's a game that has its tongue in its cheek a lot of times. It's a kind of a ridiculous game. It's over the top in every way, in production, in design, in the amount of text on your player boards. I get it. It's not the most elegant of games. But I feel like it captures what I want in a game like that, which is just this crazy over-the-top experience where everybody is just kind of like throwing everything they've got. Oh, you think so? Well, here's this card. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to do this. I've got this ridiculous power that you can't possibly know because I'm across the table. Is it the most balanced game? Maybe not. I think Roy actually could argue
maybe.
That it is. Roy has made some very much better arguments about it than I have at its actual design prowess. But I just like the experience it provides. I'm not even going to try to defend it as a design. I just know that I've played that game many times and I have not had a bad experience with it yet. And so until I do, I'm going to keep shouting the praises of Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea.
I just don't even know how to respond in a way that would be appropriate for being on the Dice Tower Network.
I appreciate you remembering the yes.
Remember where you are, Kellen.
Yes. Oh, so you don't feel the same. You think it's a not good design.
I mean, I think, what it's doing is ripping off Warcraft, right?
Sure.
And Warcraft has a competitive element to the old games where some balance between factions, kind of a StarCrafty, fighty feel. And the board game completely misses the point, which is that there has to be some level of competitiveness And it's just a bunch of gotchas. You're just constantly saying gotcha,
Uh-huh.
and all your units are leveling up and getting different powers at different times. And so it's not like you can learn what everyone's capable of at the beginning of the game.
Right.
It's actually they're constantly and consistently upgrading their abilities that you can't read. You got to sit there and kind of like, oh, that's what you can do. But that's beside. I think if you love it, you love it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not right, but that's cool. And I agree. The production, it's cool. Seeing it all set up, with the minis on top of the vehicles is pretty cool.
Yeah. I appreciate you being kind, because I know that you don't have much use for the game, but even I try to do the same. When there's somebody else that really likes the game, I at least try to find things that I can understand why some people would like this. I don't, but all right. I'm trying to find one question to end us on, because unfortunately, we're only like 5 minutes past our time, and we have a little bit of fluidity here. So I don't want to rush off, because we have so many great. We've got Roy also keeps talking about me only knowing Pokemon by their flavor. I vehemently deny that I have ever eaten a Pokemon in my lifetime, no matter how delicious they may appear. I have never ever eaten a Pokemon, or sung about eating Pokemon.
I don't even get the reference.
You should.
But
you wouldn't get the reference. I may or may not have just started making up a song about eating Pokemon. These are things you do, when you're bored.
You're bored of talking to me?
No. This was a long time ago. Then the song came out.
I see. You did this.
I did this, and
I
I may or may not have driven people crazy in the Dice Tower offices when we were there by singing these Pokemon songs about eating Pokemon. Okay. I'm just trying to find a good one to end with here. We have a lot of people chatting, but not as many questions now. I may have gotten past. There were a lot earlier, and I may have gotten past them. So let's see.
I'm seeing from Muhammad that you have definitely eaten a Rapidash, which is a flaming horse Pokemon. So
I know Rapidash.
Hurt.
I would like to think so, because I would have to be pretty quick to catch a Rapidash to be able to eat the Rapidash.
That's fair. You're a quick man.
And could you have a flaming hot Rapidash, or would that be redundant?
And would it get all over your game components?
I think it would.
That's morbid.
It is. All right, this is a good one.
Rapidash.
This is a good one to end with here. Tabletop Island asks, what are your guys' favorite part about physically playing games? Like, what gets you in the mood to play? What part of it? The style, the theme, the Pokemon cards, what?
What gets me in the mood to play board games?
Yeah, what's your favorite part about like the physicality of playing games?
I think there's this fun setup and sort of even the smell, right? I got this Japanese game called Square on sale recently, and I actually, Mike, I think you need to look it up, because it is quite good.
It's called Square?
Square on sale.
Oh, you didn't get the game on sale. The game is called
No.
Square.
The game Square on sale. And it has just lovely wooden blocks and kind of this minimalist aesthetic, a cloth board. And I think the components for me go a long way towards getting it out and setting it up and getting me kind of in the mood. But ultimately, it's about mechanical things of interest. If I know that this game is all about trading, then when I'm in the mood for trading, I'm going to pull that game out, and that's kind of what gets me going. There's optimization. There's nights where you just kind of want to do a little puzzle.
Yeah.
And then those type of games speak to you. And then there's other times where you just want to fight.
Yeah.
And it's time for Rising Sun. It's time for Blood Rage. Those are Christina's favorite games.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of get in the mood by way of your mood, kind of in the same way you'd pick a movie.
Right.
It's like, is it comedy night, or is it time for some kind of intense drama?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I that's well said. I've mentioned before, I don't remember I think on a podcast at one point, that I feel like there's almost a ritual involved with setting up board games. There's a process that you go through. There's the physicality, there's the tactile nature of board games, and that's why I've been so kind of unashamed about talking about me being a shallow board gamer, in the sense that I really, really want a game to look good. I want it to feel good. I want it to have table presence. Now, not at the cost of a good design. Ideally, we can have both now. That's what drives me crazy, is that you can have both.
Right.
It doesn't have to be binary. So I really do enjoy that process of I've talked to Z about this. I don't want to speak for him, but I think he's mentioned this before too. There's something about, even if you're not going to play the game, there's something about just getting it off the shelf and putting it out on the table and seeing it all out there and all the cards in their spaces and all of the pieces in their spots and the aesthetic beauty of it and the heft of the pieces in your hands and the feeling of the die rolls. All of those are things that make me want to play games. And that's why I feel like board games have something that is unique. They're truly interactive. And I'm not a person that says that online or video games, video board games or digital board games. I don't know why I'm talking like I am old, but I'm not 70 years old. There's nothing wrong with those, but I do feel like they serve a slightly different purpose, not a lesser or greater, just a different purpose. But there's nothing to me that compares with that physical, tactile nature of getting a game out, setting it up, having all of the nine. You know what I mean? I like having things symmetrical if I can. That whole nine. There's something ritualistic about it almost.
Well, and I think the board game apps know that, right?
Yeah.
Because the best ones, when you roll the dice, it doesn't just pop up with the one that you got. It does a little animation and it spins around. And that is them trying to replicate sort of that feeling. And so I think the best ones try to take parts of that experience or give you better versions of what they can, but it isn't a replacement. And it does, in fact, make you realize that board gaming is more than just the game or more than just what you can do digitally.
Lovely, lovely, lovely question. And a great way. I hate that it's time, but it's actually a little bit over time. And I know it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet, but it's been lovely talking to you, Kellen. I don't ever need an excuse to talk to you. I like talking to you anytime, but it's even better when we can share it with all of the lovely Dice Tower commenters. And I think we probably have some Board Game Barragers that have crossed over into the Dice Tower waters as well. So it's been lovely.
No. It's been great to talk. I was shocked on the way to Dice Tower West when you gave me your cell phone number. I was like, what is this guy doing? Like, why does he think this is not going to be good? And then I prank called you over and over again.
Not only did you prank call me, well, you didn't prank call me. You actually called me while you were live recording in your car, which I still don't understand the legalities or the logistics of that. But you called me and I was in the middle of I was helping run a live Wits and Wagers Dice Tower West.
That's so funny.
And normally I don't answer. I mean, I was definitely not in the middle of a live show. I don't answer my phone, but it was a number I didn't recognize. And I thought, gosh, this could be, I guess I'm a spammer's dream, because unless it says spam risk, I'm always thinking this could be an important call. I don't know. It
was.
Yeah, and
it was a very vitally important phone call.
And so, yes. And so I immediately regretted my decision to give you my phone number. I have since changed my number, Kellen, so please don't try to call me anymore. But it has been lovely. It's been wonderful to talk to you. It's been wonderful for everyone that has come on. And I know we all have had a great time doing these daily chats, and we're going to continue to do them. We're looking forward to it. I believe Z is tomorrow. I believe Z is coming on tomorrow. So
you can ask him at your sleepover tonight.
That's true. Yeah. They've probably eaten all the ribs already. So I definitely blew it on that. But I'll ask Z here in a minute. I think it's him. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much for participating in another say it for me.
Daily chat with the Dice Tower, March 30th edition.
Nice. And special guest, Kellen Laker. Thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.